The gleaming chrome walls of the United Nations Assembly Hall had never felt more like a prison. Every delegate sat frozen as the alien ambassador's metallic voice cut through the silence like a blade. His towering form cast shadows across the terrified faces below, his 6 arms gesturing with mechanical precision. Your species has exactly 30 Earth rotations to vacate this planet, Vexter announced, his mandibles clicking with what humans had learned to recognize as amusement. We require your world's lithium deposits and rare earth minerals. Consider this ... generous notice. President Jackson's face burned red with rage. The veins in his neck bulged as he shot to his feet, his fist crashing down on the podium with a thunderous bang that made several delegates jump. This is humanity's home. We've been here for 200,000 years. You can't just waltz in here and can't? Vexter's laugh sounded like grinding metal. Your weapons are primitive. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Your entire nuclear arsenal couldn't scratch our smallest mining vessel. He leaned forward, his compound eyes gleaming. You will leave voluntarily, or we will remove you. The choice is yours. The silence that followed felt like a death sentence. Every person in that room knew the truth. Humanity was helpless. Their most advanced fighter jets moved like toys compared to Krillian interceptors. Their missiles bounced off alien shields, like rubber balls. But here's the thing about humans that the Krillians never understood. We're incredibly stubborn when. Cornered Captain Tyler Brooks stood at the viewport of the evacuation ship Liberty, watching Earth shrink to a blue dot behind them. His wife Emma clutched their 5-year-old son Danny, her tears floating in the artificial gravity like tiny diamonds. Around them, thousands of other families huddled together, carrying nothing but the clothes on their backs and whatever memories they could hold. Daddy, when are we going home? Danny asked, his innocent voice cutting through Tyler's heart like a laser. Tyler's jaw clenched. In his jacket pocket, the stolen Krillian data chips felt heavy as lead. During the chaos of evacuation, he'd managed to hack into their systems and download their technical specifications. It was treason by alien law, punishable by death. Tyler didn't care. Soon, buddy, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. We're going home soon. Behind them, Earth's surface lit up with mining lasers. The planet that had given birth to Shakespeare, Einstein, and Martin Luther King Jr. was being carved up like a holiday turkey. The aliens worked with ruthless efficiency, their massive extraction ships hovering over major cities like mechanical vultures. But they made one critical mistake. They assumed humans would stay scattered and broken. 25 years of exile had transformed humanity into something the Krillians never expected. The children born in the void between stars didn't walk, they flowed. They didn't run, they soared. Zero gravity wasn't a limitation for them. It was freedom. Admiral Lisa Morgan had been one of those children. Now she stood on the bridge of the Stormhawk, watching her crew navigate through an asteroid field that would have shredded any Krillian vessel. Her ship's hull bore scars from radiation storms, meteor impacts, and solar flares. Each mark told a story of survival against impossible odds. Admiral Lieutenant Jake Parker called out, his voice tight with excitement. We're picking up a Krillian distress signal. Looks like one of their mining vessels is trapped in the gravity well between those 2 asteroids. Lisa's smile was cold. As space itself, the aliens had spent decades strip-mining worlds, growing fat and lazy on easy conquests. They'd forgotten that the universe was dangerous, but humans had learned to dance with danger. You know what's funny? Lisa asked, her voice carrying across the bridge. They think superior technology makes them superior beings. But technology is just a tool. It's the person using it that matters. She turned to her crew, her eyes blazing with determination. All hands, battle stations. It's time to remind the galaxy that humanity is still here. The Stormhawk dove into the asteroid field like a predator sensing wounded prey. Where Krillian computers saw chaos and calculated destruction, human instincts saw patterns and possibilities. The ship twisted and rolled through the maze of spinning rocks. Its movements so fluid they seemed almost alive. This was humanity's secret weapon, not better technology, but better adaptation. While the Krillians had conquered through force, humans had learned to survive through intelligence, creativity, in sheer bloody-minded determination. The void had forged them into something new, something dangerous, something the galaxy had never seen before, and they were about to announce their return in the most spectacular way possible. But that's just the beginning of humanity's incredible journey from refugees to rulers of the stars. If you want to see how small actions can compound into massive results, just like humanity's gradual transformation from victims to victors, check out my next video about the incredible power of compounding. Click the link in the description to discover how tiny changes can create enormous outcomes over time. The silence in the Outer Rim colonies was deafening. The peaceful quiet of a library, but the terrifying silence of a people who had learned to survive by staying invisible. For 25 years, humanity had scattered across the galaxy like seeds in a cosmic wind, taking root in the most hostile environments imaginable. But here's what the Krillians never understood about humans: we don't just survive, we adapt. We evolve. We become something better. Admiral Lisa Morgan floated in the zero-gravity observation deck of the Stormhawk, watching her crew work with movements that would have seemed impossible to their earthbound ancestors. These weren't the clumsy, stumbling humans the Krillians had driven from their homeworld. These were something entirely new. Lieutenant Jake Parker twisted through the air like a gymnast, his movements so fluid they seemed choreographed. He'd been born in the void, raised in the cold embrace of space itself. His bones were lighter, his reflexes faster, his spatial awareness beyond anything evolution had produced on Earth. When he moved, it was like watching poetry written in motion. "Ma'am," Jake called out, his voice carrying easily through the ship's communication system. "We're approaching the Crimson Nebula. Navigation computers are going crazy trying to plot a safe course." Lisa's laugh was sharp as broken glass. "Computers," she muttered, always thinking in straight lines. The truth was, humanity had learned to think in dimensions the Krillians couldn't even perceive. While the aliens relied on their sophisticated computers and predictable flight patterns, humans had developed an almost supernatural ability to read space itself. They could feel the gravitational eddies, sense the radiation patterns, predict solar flares hours before they erupted. "Admiral," another voice called out Sergeant Mike Collins, the ship's navigation specialist. "We're picking up something interesting." Krillian distress beacon bearing 27 Mark IV. Lisa's expression shifted. The cold smile that spread across her face would have made a shark nervous. "Krillian vessel in distress?" she asked her, voice dripping with mock concern. "We certainly can't ignore that, can we? Here's the thing about revenge. It's a dish best served in the vacuum of space. The Stormhawk had been built from salvaged alien technology, human ingenuity, and pure spite. Its hull bore the scars of 25 years in the void radiation burns that would have killed any other crew. Meteor impacts that should have breached the ship's integrity, and plasma damage from flying through solar storms that no sane pilot would even attempt. But sanity was a luxury humanity could no longer afford. "Ma'am," Jake's voice carried a note of excitement that made Lisa's pulse quicken. "The Krillian vessel is the Dominator, one of their heavy mining ships. Looks like they're trapped in a gravity well between two colliding asteroids." Lisa's smile widened. The Dominator was more than just a mining vessel, it was a symbol. This was the same class of ship that had carved up Earth's surface, the same design that had turned humanity's birth world into a scarred wasteland. And now it was helpless, caught in the same kind of cosmic chaos that humans had learned to call home. "You know what's funny?" Lisa asked, her voice carrying to every corner of the bridge. "They always said we were too primitive to understand true space travel. Too emotional, too unpredictable." She paused, watching the tactical display as her crew maneuvered through an asteroid field that would have shredded any Krillian vessel. The Stormhawk moved like a living thing, responding to her crew's instincts rather than computer calculations. Turns out, being unpredictable is exactly what you need out here. The Krillians had made their empire through overwhelming force and superior technology. They conquered worlds the same way they did everything else, methodically, logically, without imagination. But space wasn't logical. Space was chaos, beauty, and terror, all rolled into one magnificent, deadly dance. And humans had learned to dance. Lieutenant Parker's fingers flew across his controls, his movements so fast they blurred. Admiral, I'm reading massive gravitational distortions around the Dominator. Our engines are offline. Navigation is dead, and their hull is taking a beating from asteroid impacts. Lisa nodded slowly. The alien ship was trapped in a cosmic pinball machine, bouncing between asteroids the size of mountains while gravitational forces tried to tear it apart. Their sophisticated computers couldn't calculate an escape vector because the physics were too chaotic, too unpredictable. But humans didn't need computers. They had something better: intuition forged in the fires of exile. All hands battle stations, Lisa commanded, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had stared death in the face and laughed. It's time to remind the galaxy that humanity is still here. The Stormhawk dove into the asteroid field like a predator sensing wounded prey. Where Krillian sensors saw only chaos and destruction, human eyes saw patterns and possibilities. The ship rolled and twisted through the maze of spinning rocks, its movements so fluid they seemed almost alive. This was humanity's secret weapon, not better technology, but better adaptation. While the Krillians had grown fat and lazy on easy conquests, humans had learned to thrive in the universe's most hostile environments. They had become children of the void, citizens of chaos, masters of the impossible. The bridge shuddered as they entered the gravity well, but Lisa's crew didn't even flinch. They had flown through worse storms, survived greater dangers, endured longer hardships. This was just another day at the office for humanity's new generation. "Ma'am," Jake called. "Out," his voice tight with anticipation. "We're in position. The Dominator is directly ahead, taking heavy damage from asteroid impacts." Lisa's hand hovered over the communication controls. After 25 years of hiding, running, and surviving, humanity was about to announce its return to the galaxy. And they were going to do it in the most spectacular way possible. But what happened next would change everything. The rescue that followed would send shockwaves through the Krillian Empire and mark the beginning of humanity's transformation from refugees to rulers of the stars. Speaking of transformation, if you want to see how small, consistent actions can compound into massive results, just like humanity's gradual evolution from victims to victors, check out my next video about the incredible power of compounding. Click the link to discover how tiny changes can create enormous outcomes over time. The destroyer hung in space like a dying whale, its massive hull groaning under the crushing gravitational forces. Commander Vextar's 6 arms trembled as he watched the tactical display, his compound eyes reflecting the chaos outside. 2 asteroids the size of Manhattan were spinning toward each other in a deadly collision course, and his ship was caught directly in their path. "Status report," he barked, his metallic voice cracking with desperation. "Sir, our navigation computers are overloaded," his second-in-command reported, his mandibles clicking nervously. "The gravitational distortions are too complex. We calculate a 97.3% probability of hull breach within the next 14 minutes. Vextar felt something he hadn't experienced in decades: genuine fear. The Krillian Empire had ruled the galaxy. For 3,000 years, through superior technology and overwhelming force, their ships were marvels of engineering. Their computers could calculate trajectories across entire star systems. Their weapons could crack planets in half. But none of that mattered now. They were about to die, and their precious technology couldn't save them. That's when the impossible happened. A ship appeared on their sensors, small scarred, moving with a grace that defied physics. It dove through the asteroid field like a dancer threading between raindrops, its hull barely 20 meters from spinning chunks of rock that would have pulverized any sane pilot. "What is that?" Vextar whispered, his voice barely audible over the groaning of his dying ship. The answer came through their communication system. "Broadcast on an open channel in perfect Krillian. This is Captain Tyler Brooks of the human vessel. Stormhawk, we're here to help." Human. Vextar's mind reeled. The refugees they'd scattered across the galaxy 25 years ago. The primitive bipeds who couldn't even achieve faster than light travel without stealing alien technology. "Impossible," he breathed. watching the human ship perform maneuvers that violated every principle of safe navigation. But here's the thing about humans. We specialize in impossible. The Stormhawk rolled through the chaos like it was born there. Its pilot reading the gravitational currents like a sailor reading the wind. Where Krillian computers saw only mathematical chaos, human intuition saw patterns and possibilities. The ship twisted and spun, using the asteroid's momentum to slingshot itself closer to the trapped mining vessel. "Sir," the communications officer called out, his voice trembling, "they're requesting permission to attach a tractor beam." Vextar's laugh was bitter as broken glass. "Permission? We're about to be crushed into scrap metal? Tell them yes." The rescue operation that followed would become legend throughout the galaxy. The Stormhawk locked onto the destroyer with a modified tractor beam, not the standard Krillian design, but something jury-rigged from salvaged parts and human ingenuity. Instead of simply pulling the massive ship to safety, they did something no Krillian pilot would have attempted. They danced. Captain Brooks used the asteroid's gravitational fields like a cosmic pinball machine, bouncing from one gravitational well to another, building momentum with each bounce. The destroyer followed like a reluctant dance partner, its hull scraping against asteroid surfaces with millimeters to spare. "This is insane," a Vexter screamed, watching his ship spin through space in defiance of all tactical doctrine. "We're going to die?" "Your computers think like machines," Brooks transmitted, his voice calm as ice. "We think like humans. The difference was everything." Krillian computers calculated probabilities and optimal solutions. Human minds saw opportunities and creative possibilities. Where algorithms saw certain death, instinct saw a narrow path. To survival, the rescue took exactly 12 minutes and 37 seconds. When it was over, the destroyer hung in open space, its hull intact, but its crew forever changed. They had witnessed something that shouldn't have been possible. A human ship performing maneuvers that their most advanced pilots wouldn't have attempted. "How?" Vextar asked, his voice barely a whisper. Brooks's response would echo through Krillian. "Military academies for generations. We learn to survive in places where your technology fails. We learn to think in dimensions your computers can't calculate. We learn to be human." The Stormhawk vanished into hyperspace without another word, leaving the Krillians alone with their shattered assumptions. But the rescue was just the beginning. Word spread through the galactic communication networks like wildfire. The humans, the supposedly primitive refugees, had technology that defied conventional physics. Ships that could navigate through cosmic storms that would destroy entire fleets. Pilots who laughed at death itself. Fear rippled through the Krillian Empire like a plague. For the first time in 3 millennia, they felt vulnerable. The refugees they had scattered and forgotten had become something new, something dangerous, something that hunted in the void. Admiral Kextron received the reports. In his command center on the Imperial homeworld, his crystalline form pulsing with agitation. "Confirmed sightings?" he asked, his voice tight with tension. 17 in the last month, sir," his intelligence officer reported. "They're calling themselves the Sky Wolves. They strike mining operations without warning, disable the equipment, then vanish before reinforcements arrive." Kexron's compound eyes narrowed. "Casualties none, sir. They're not killing anyone. They're just ... hunting." That was the most terrifying part. The humans weren't seeking revenge through genocide or conquest. They were methodically, systematically dismantling the Krillian mining empire one operation at a time. He struck with surgical precision, leaving their targets alive but powerless. It was a message written in the language of disabled ships and abandoned mining stations. "We remember. We survived. Now we're coming for you." The hunters had become the hunted. The galaxy would never be the same. But this was just the beginning of humanity's incredible transformation from scattered refugees to masters of the void. If you want to understand how small, consistent actions can compound into massive results, just like humanity's gradual evolution. From victims to victors, check out my next video about the incredible power of compounding. Click the link to discover how tiny changes can create enormous outcomes over time. The holographic display in Admiral Kexron's command center flickered with red warning lights, H1 representing another failed mining operation. His crystalline form pulsed with agitation as he stared at the tactical map that showed humanity's relentless campaign across the galaxy. 17 mining stations disabled in the past month, he muttered, his voice carrying the weight of 3,000 years of unchallenged dominance. How is this possible? A science officer, a younger Krillian with nervous energy crackling through his exoskeleton, shuffled forward with another report. Sir, we've analyzed the attack patterns. Humans aren't using conventional faster-than-light drives. They're somehow riding quantum streams that our sensors can't even detect. Kexron's compound eyes narrowed. Quantum streams? That's theoretical physics? No species has ever successfully navigated quantum foam. With respect, sir, the officer replied, his mandibles clicking nervously. Tell that to the Skywolves. The Skywolves. Even the name sent chills through the Krillian military hierarchy. These weren't the scattered refugees they'd driven from Earth decades ago. These were predators, and they had turned the galaxy's most hostile environments into their hunting ground. But here's what the Krillians never understood. Humans don't just adapt to their environment. They make it part of themselves. Captain Tyler Brooks floated in the zero-gravity command center of the Vengeance, humanity's flagship, watching the tactical display with the patience of a born hunter. Around him, his crew moved with the fluid grace of beings who had never known the weight of gravity. These weren't Earthborn humans anymore. They were something new, something forged in the crucible of space itself. Captain Lieutenant Sarah Davis called out, her voice carrying the excitement of someone who had just spotted their prey. We've got confirmation. The Krillian mining fleet at Kepler 442 is operating with minimal defenses. They think we don't know about it. Brooks's smile was cold as the void between stars. They still think we're refugees, he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the command center. They still think we're running. The truth was far more dangerous. Humanity had learned to read space like ancient mariners read the ocean. They could feel the gravitational eddies between star systems, sense the electromagnetic storms that would fry conventional electronics, predict solar flares days before they erupted. What looked like empty void to other species was a highway system to humans. You know what's funny? Brooks asked, his voice carrying a note of dark humor. They keep trying to understand our technology. They think we've developed some kind of super advanced engine system. He gestured to the viewport where the stars streaked past in impossible patterns. The truth is, we don't fight physics. We dance with it. The Vengeance moved through space like a living thing, its hull reading the quantum fluctuations that permeated the universe. Where other ships needed massive engines to push through space-time, human vessels rode the natural currents of reality. Itself, they had learned to surf the cosmic waves that existed between dimensions. Sir Navigator Mike Thompson reported, his fingers dancing across controls that would have baffled alien engineers. We're picking up the quantum signature of the entire fleet. 200 ships all riding the same gravitational current toward Earth. Earth, the word hung in the air like a prayer and a curse rolled into one. Brooks turned to face the main display, where their destination appeared as a small blue dot against the starfield. Even from this distance, he could see the scars, the ugly brown patches, where Krillian mining operations had stripped away forests. The artificial geometric patterns where cities had been carved up for their minerals, but it was still home. All ships, Brooks broadcast on the fleet-wide communication channel, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had led humanity through 25 years of exile. Today we take back what's ours. The response was immediate and electric. Across 200 ships, 20,000 humans raised their voices in a battle cry that echoed through the void. These weren't just warriors. They were the children and grandchildren of Earth, turning to reclaim their birthright. The Krillian Defense Fleet had no idea what was coming. Admiral Kexron stood in his command center, studying intelligence reports that made less sense with each passing hour. They're not following any known tactical doctrine, he said, his voice tight with frustration. They appear from nowhere, strike with impossible precision, then vanish before our reinforcements arrive. Sir, his tactical officer interrupted. We're receiving reports of massive human fleet movements. They're converging on Earth, Kexron's form went rigid. Earth, they wouldn't dare. Its system is heavily defended. We have mining platforms throughout the asteroid belt, orbital defense stations, 3 full battle fleets. Sir, they're not approaching through normal space lanes. Our sensors are detecting quantum distortions throughout the system, but we can't pinpoint their exact location. The truth was terrifying in its simplicity. The humans weren't coming to Earth. They were already there. They had learned to move through dimensions that conventional sensors couldn't detect, exist in the spaces between reality where only the most advanced species could survive. They had become ghosts in the machine of the universe itself. Brooks watched Earth grow larger on the main display, his heart pounding with a mixture of rage and hope. 25 years of exile. 25 years of watching his people scatter across the galaxy like seeds on the wind. But seeds grow. They put down roots. They become something stronger than what came before. All ships, prepare for operation. Homecoming, he commanded, his voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm him. The Sky Wolves are going home. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and it would reshape the balance of power throughout the galaxy. But what happened next would prove that sometimes the hunted become the hunters, and the scattered become the storm. Speaking of transformation, if you want to see how small, consistent actions can compound into massive results, just like humanity's incredible evolution from refugees to rulers of the stars, check out my next video about the power of compounding. Click the link to discover how tiny changes can create enormous outcomes over time. The first shot of the Battle of Earth came, not from a weapon, but from the sun itself. Captain Tyler Brooks watched through the viewport of the Vengeance as his fleet emerged from the solar corona like demons rising from hell. The Krillian defense sensors, designed to detect conventional ships, registered nothing but solar static. Until it was too late. All ships, execute Operation Homecoming, Brooks commanded. His voice carrying across 200 vessels, filled with 20,000 humans who had dreamed of this moment for 25 years. The Krillian Defense Fleet, commanded by Admiral Kexron, hung in formation around Earth like a steel wall. Massive dreadnoughts bristling with energy weapons, their hulls gleaming with the confidence of 3,000 years of unopposed dominance. They had crushed rebellions, conquered civilizations, and strip-mined entire star systems. But they had never faced an enemy that could turn the universe itself into a weapon. "Sir," the Krillian tactical officer screamed, his voice cracking with terror. Massive fleet signatures appearing throughout the system. They're coming from inside the sun. Kexron's compound eyes went wide. Inside the sun? That's impossible. The radiation would kill any organic life form. Tell that to the humans, his officer replied. Watching the tactical display light up with impossible readings, the truth was both simpler and more terrifying than the Krillians could comprehend. Humanity had learned to ride the solar winds, to surf the magnetic fields that other species couldn't even detect. They had become children of radiation and plasma, citizens of the cosmic forces that would destroy any normal civilization. The Vengeance led the charge, diving through a solar flare that would have vaporized a Krillian ship. Behind it, the entire human fleet spread out like a pack of wolves. Each ship moving with the predatory grace of hunters who had learned to kill in the dark. Energy signatures are off the charts, the Krillian sensor operator reported, his voice barely audible over the chaos erupting around them. They're not just using our gravitational fields, they're weaponizing them. The first Krillian dreadnought exploded in a ball of superheated plasma. Not from human weapons, but from its own power, core overloading as human ships manipulated the local gravitational field to create a feedback loop. The massive warship, pride of the Krillian fleet, tore itself apart from the inside out. Turn. "Fire!" Kexron screamed, his crystalline form pulsing with desperate energy. All ships, open fire. The space around Earth lit up like the 4th of July. Energy beams lanced through the void. Torpedo spreads painted streaks of light across the darkness, and plasma cannons turned the vacuum into a sea of fire. Fleet unleashed everything they had, pouring enough firepower into the battle to crack a planet. But the humans were everywhere and nowhere. They emerged from asteroid fields like ghosts, dove through the debris of their own destroyed ships. used chunks of space rock as shields while they closed the distance. Where conventional tactics called for formation, flying, and coordinated attacks, humans fought like a pack of wild animals, chaotic, unpredictable, and absolutely deadly. "Sir, we've lost contact with the Dominator," came the report from the communications station. "The humans are using some kind of jamming technology we've never encountered." Kexron's laugh was bitter as broken glass. "It's not jamming," he said, watching human ships dance through his fleet's defensive fire. "They're using the solar radiation to mask their communications. They're turning our own star against us." The battle raged for exactly 2 hours, 13 minutes, and 47 seconds. When it was over, the Krillian defense fleet was either destroyed or fleeing toward the outer rim of the solar system. Earth hung in space like a blue jewel. Scarred but free, Captain Brooks stood in the rebuilt United Nations Assembly Hall, same chamber where humanity had received its death sentence 25 years earlier. The roles had reversed completely. Now, it was Admiral Lisa Morgan who faced the defeated Krillian ambassador, her uniform bearing the insignia of the newly formed Terran Space Command. "You made one critical mistake," Morgan said, her voice carrying the cold authority of someone who had learned to command in the void between stars. "You thought superior technology meant superiority, but the galaxy doesn't belong to those with the biggest guns." She gestured to the holographic display showing human ships patrolling the major trade routes. Their pilots born among the stars, raised in the cosmic winds. The galaxy belongs to those who can survive its dangers, and we've learned to make those dangers our allies. The Krillian ambassador, his crystalline form dim with defeat, could barely speak. "How?" he whispered. "How did refugees become this?" Morgan's smile was sharp as a blade. "You scattered us to the corners of the galaxy, thinking that would make us weak. Instead, you gave us the entire universe as our classroom. We learned to read cosmic radiation like ancient sailors read the wind. We learned to navigate quantum storms that would tear your ships apart. We learned to become citizens of the void itself." She walked to the viewport, gazing out at the stars that had once seemed so distant and hostile. "We are Earth's children, but we are citizens of the sky, and we will protect both." The holographic display showed the new reality. Human ships, their hulls scarred by radiation and meteor impacts, patrolled the trade routes with the confidence of apex predators. They moved through space like dolphins, through water, turning the galaxy's most dangerous environments into their personal highways. "You ruled through fear," Morgan continued, her voice carrying to every corner of the assembly hall. "Right. We rule through something far more powerful, the absolute refusal to surrender our freedom. You can conquer a world, but you cannot conquer the human spirit." The Krillian Empire had lasted 3,000 years. It took humanity exactly 25 years to bring it to its knees. Not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but through the simple, stubborn refusal to give up. The Skywolves had come home, and the galaxy would never be the same. But this incredible transformation from scattered refugees to masters of the void didn't happen overnight. If you want to understand how small, consistent actions can compound into massive results, just like humanity's evolution from victims. To victors, check out my next video about the incredible power of compounding. Click the link to discover how tiny changes can create enormous outcomes over time. The END.